There is something that often feels uncomfortable to say out loud. For most of our lives, we are taught that progress means accumulation, more space, more vehicles, more possessions, more responsibility. We work for decades believing that owning more is the same as being secure, and for a long time that belief seems to work. But as people move closer to retirement, a quiet realization begins to surface. The things that once represented success start to feel heavy, expensive, demanding, and slowly the definition of wealth begins to change. It becomes less about how much you own and more about how free you feel. Over the years, a clear pattern appears. People who retire comfortably are rarely the ones surrounded by the most things. They are the ones who simplified before they had to. They reduced complexity while they still had time and choice. This video is not about getting rid of everything. It is about thoughtful preparation. Because one of the smartest financial moves many people can make before retirement is not buying something new. It is selling what no longer serves them, not investments, not retirement accounts, but physical assets that quietly drain cash flow, energy, and attention. As always, this discussion is for educational purposes only. It is not personal financial advice. If you are approaching retirement and thinking seriously about long-term stability, this conversation may feel familiar. Let's begin with the first and most emotional consideration: the family home. For many people, the house is not just a building, it represents decades of life. Raising children, family dinners, milestones, and memories. That attachment is natural. But financial decisions in retirement require a different kind of clarity. The large home that once made perfect sense can become a financial burden later. Unused rooms still cost money. Large spaces require constant maintenance. Property taxes do not pause just because life has slowed down. Utilities, insurance, repairs, they continue year after year. At the same time, income often becomes more predictable and fixed. What once felt manageable during peak earning years can quietly create pressure in retirement. Downsizing does not mean giving up comfort or dignity. It means aligning your living space with your current life. Many people discover that a smaller, well-located home provides more peace, not less. Selling a larger house can free up significant capital. That money can be invested to generate income or used to reduce financial anxiety. Just as important, ongoing expenses often drop. Lower taxes, lower utilities, less maintenance. Some people hesitate because of family visits, grandchildren, holidays, occasional gatherings, but it is worth asking an honest question. Does it make sense to carry year-round costs for space that is rarely used? Or would flexibility serve you better? Many retirees find that downsizing gives them options instead of limitations. Options are valuable in retirement. The second item many people should consider selling is extra vehicles. During working years, multiple cars often feel necessary. Different schedules, different responsibilities. But retirement changes driving habits. There is no daily commute, fewer obligations, less urgency. Yet many households continue to insure and maintain several vehicles. Each one carries costs: insurance, registration, maintenance, depreciation. Even when paid off, cars are not free. Financially secure retirees usually simplify transportation. One reliable car, sometimes two. Everything beyond that often becomes unnecessary expense. Selling extra vehicles converts idle assets into usable cash. It also reduces monthly costs. Transportation should support your life, not quietly drain it. Now let's talk about the third item. This one is deeply tied to emotion and tradition. Vacation properties, lake houses, cabins, beach condos. They hold memories, family traditions, a sense of escape. But financially, they often underperform. Most vacation homes are used only a few weeks each year. The rest of the time they sit empty, still generating expenses, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, association fees. When you calculate cost per day of use, the numbers can be surprising. Selling a vacation property can unlock a large amount of capital that can be invested to produce income. That income can fund travel with far more flexibility, different destinations, different experiences, no maintenance responsibilities. Many people find that selling a vacation home actually increases freedom. They travel more, not less. At this point, a pattern should be becoming clear. These assets are not bad. They are simply mismatched to retirement priorities. Retirement works best when finances become simpler. In the next part, we will talk about two areas that often create hidden risk as retirement approaches: emotionally concentrated investments and businesses that owners hold on to for too long. These decisions can shape retirement outcomes more than most people realize. By now, a pattern should be becoming clearer. The issue is not that people made poor choices. The issue is that life changed, but the structure around them did not. Assets that once felt supportive begin to feel demanding. Not suddenly, gradually. And that gradual shift is easy to ignore. Now let's talk about the fourth thing many people should consider selling before retirement: emotionally concentrated investments. This one requires honesty rather than urgency. Over a lifetime, many people accumulate individual stocks for reasons that have nothing to do with strategy. They worked for a company for years. They received shares as compensation. They inherited stock from a parent. They bought into a business they believed in emotionally, and they held on, not because it was always the best investment, but because selling felt uncomfortable. In retirement, comfort matters, but so does safety. One of the quiet risks retirees face is overexposure to a single company or sector. During working years, volatility feels manageable. There is time to recover. Income continues. In retirement, that margin disappears. If a large portion of savings depends on one company, one industry, or one story, risk increases dramatically. History offers many reminders. Companies that once felt untouchable can decline quickly. Industries can change. Markets can shift. In retirement, the goal is not to maximize upside. It is to protect stability. Diversification becomes more important than loyalty. Selling emotionally held positions does not mean rejecting the past. It means protecting the future. Yes, taxes may apply. That is part of investing. Avoiding necessary decisions purely to avoid taxes often creates greater risk later. Taxes are visible. Risk is not. Many financially secure retirees choose balance over attachment. They spread exposure. They simplify portfolios. They focus on income and resilience. This shift often brings relief, less worry, less watching, less anxiety tied to headlines. Investments should support retirement, not complicate it. Now let's move to the fifth and final consideration. This one applies to a smaller group of people. But when it applies, it matters deeply. A business you own. For business owners, the company is rarely just an asset. It is identity, effort, pride. Years, sometimes decades, of work are embedded in it. Because of that, many owners delay planning an exit. They tell themselves they will decide later, or that they will slow down gradually, or that the business will always be there. But time changes things. Energy changes. Health changes. Markets change. Running a business requires constant attention. Decisions never fully stop. Stress rarely disappears. In retirement, most people want the opposite: more time, more predictability, less obligation. A business that once provided purpose can quietly become a burden if no transition plan exists. Selling a business while it is healthy often produces better outcomes than waiting until necessity forces action. Value is higher, options are broader, negotiation is possible. Some owners choose full sale, others plan gradual transitions, succession strategies, buyouts over time. What matters is intention. Without a plan, owners risk being trapped, working longer than they want, selling under pressure, or leaving value unrealized. A business is often one of the largest assets a person owns. Ignoring it does not make the decision go away. Planning early creates freedom later. Now let's step back again. All 5 of these areas share something important. They tie up capital, they create ongoing expenses, they require attention, and attention is a limited resource in retirement. The goal of retirement is not to manage complexity, it is to enjoy simplicity. Liquidity matters more, predictable income matters more, lower fixed expenses matter more. This is why selling before retirement often works better than selling after. Before retirement, there is time, there is patience, there is leverage. After retirement, urgency can creep in, and urgency is expensive. Selling assets thoughtfully over time allows better decisions, better pricing, less stress. Another concern often arises here. What happens to the money after selling? This question matters. Selling assets without a plan accomplishes nothing. The purpose of selling is conversion, converting complexity into simplicity, converting maintenance into income, converting obligation into flexibility. Freed capital should support retirement goals, income generation, stability, protection against inflation. That does not mean taking excessive risk, it means alignment. People who retire comfortably often make one key shift. They stop asking, "What do I own?" and start asking, "What does this give me?" Does it give income? Does it give flexibility? Does it reduce stress? If the answer is no, it deserves reevaluation. This process is not about having less, it is about having what works. Many people underestimate how much peace comes from simplicity: fewer properties to manage, fewer vehicles to maintain, fewer accounts to track, fewer worries. Money alone does not create peace. But reducing financial noise often does. If you are listening to this and feeling both clarity and hesitation, that is normal. Change always creates discomfort before relief. You do not need to act immediately, but you do need to see clearly. In the final part, we will bring everything together: how simplifying before retirement changes daily life, why freedom matters more than net worth, and how letting go can quietly improve both finances and well-being. It is helpful to step back and see what all of this is really about. Selling before retirement is not about loss, it is about transition. For decades, life is structured around growth: more responsibility, more commitments, more things to manage. But retirement asks a different question: how much do you actually need to live well? This is where many people feel tension. They spent years building. Letting go can feel like undoing progress, but in reality it is completing a cycle. Accumulation without simplification often leads to stress. Simplification without planning leads to fear. The balance is intention. When people simplify before retirement, something subtle but powerful happens. Their financial life becomes easier to understand, expenses become more predictable, decisions become calmer, and calm decisions matter more than ever at this stage of life. One of the biggest misunderstandings about retirement is this: people think it is about reaching a certain number, a net worth figure, a portfolio size, a milestone, But retirement satisfaction rarely comes from a number alone. It comes from flexibility, the ability to say no without anxiety, the ability to change plans without panic, the ability to handle surprises without fear. That flexibility is often created not by earning more, but by carrying less. When assets are simplified, time opens up. Time not spent managing properties, time not spent worrying about repairs, time not spent tracking too many moving parts, and time in retirement becomes more valuable than money. Another shift happens when people simplify. Their relationship with money changes. Money stops feeling tight, even if income is modest. Why? Because expenses are aligned, obligations are lower, choices are clearer. This alignment creates confidence. Confidence does not come from having everything, it comes from knowing you are prepared. One of the quiet benefits of selling excess assets before retirement is emotional clarity. Fewer decisions, fewer distractions, fewer financial loose ends. This clarity often improves health, relationships, and overall satisfaction. It is not uncommon for people to say they wish they had simplified earlier, not because they regret owning things, but because they underestimated the relief that comes from letting go. Another important point deserves attention. Simplifying does not mean eliminating joy. It means choosing joy intentionally. Travel that feels meaningful, hobbies that energize, time with people who matter. These experiences often cost less than maintaining unused assets. They also provide more lasting satisfaction. This is why the happiest retirees are rarely those with the most possessions. They are the ones with the fewest financial distractions. They are not constantly managing, they are living. It is also important to address fear. Fear of regret, fear of change, fear of making the wrong decision. These fears are natural. That is why planning matters. Selling does not need to happen all at once. It does not need to be rushed. Gradual simplification allows adjustment, one decision at a time, one asset evaluated honestly, one step taken with clarity. This approach reduces regret and builds confidence. Another concern people often raise is identity. Who am I without this house, without this business, without this role? Retirement is not the loss of identity. It is the evolution of it. Identity shifts from responsibility to choice, from obligation to intention. That shift can be deeply fulfilling. The question worth asking is simple. Does this asset serve the life I want now, or does it serve the life I used to have? There is no wrong answer, only honest ones. Retirement planning is not about perfection. It is about alignment, aligning resources with reality, aligning finances with values, aligning effort with energy. When alignment improves, peace often follows. As a reminder, this discussion is for educational purposes only. It is meant to encourage thoughtful planning, not immediate action. If this conversation has helped you think more clearly about retirement, consider subscribing to Principles of Wealth. This channel exists for people who value calm, long-term thinking over urgency and hype. Financial security is not built through speed. It is built through clarity, planning, and calm decisions made consistently over time. Retirement is not the end of progress. It is the beginning of a different kind of freedom. You spent years building your life. Now you have the opportunity to shape it intentionally. Letting go of excess is not losing wealth. It is often how freedom is created. And freedom in retirement is the most valuable asset of all. As we come to the end of this conversation, I want to leave you with one simple thought. Retirement is not about proving anything anymore. It is not about how much you own. It is about how light your life feels. You spent decades building, saving, and working. That effort matters. Now the question becomes how to protect it. Simplifying does not mean giving up. It means choosing what truly supports your peace, your time, and your freedom. You do not need to make every decision today. You only need to start seeing clearly. One thoughtful choice, one unnecessary burden released, one step closer to a calmer future. If this video helped you think differently about retirement, consider subscribing to Principles of Wealth. This channel is here to help you make steady, informed decisions without pressure or noise. And as always, remember this content is for educational purposes only. It is meant to guide reflection, not replace personal financial advice. Thank you for spending this time with me. Your future self is listening.